Good morning and welcome. Did it rain on your way here? It rained and then the sun came out, then it rained and then the sun came out, and then when we pulled up it was pouring. So she got to be let out through the portico and I battled the rain. But we are few in number, but I am glad you're here because, folks, your health isn't everything, but everything is absolutely nothing without it. And if you happen to have it compromised because of poor choices, you will regret it later on. And I am at the age right now where I understand that more clearly than those amongst us who are younger. Our guest tonight, our guest speaker is Dr. Hana Kahleova. She is the Clinical Research Director for PCRM. I don't have my glasses. I'm going to try to read this for those of you that haven't heard it yet. PCRM is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. It's a nonprofit organization out of Washington, D.C. Their efforts are dramatically changing the way doctors treat chronic disease. By putting prevention over pills, doctors are empowering their patients to take their own responsibility for their futures. The staff of physicians, dietitians, and scientists is working with policymakers in government, industry, the medical community, the media, and the public to create a better future for people in their health. That's a powerful organization, and we need a lot more of them. But PCRM is international and doing a wonderful work. Who is Dr. Kahleova? Dr. Kahleova is an endocrinologist, researcher, and author, and speaker who has spent the last 15 years researching the most effective ways to improve metabolism and reverse diabetes. Those are just a couple topics. Her professionalism and expertise covers the whole range of lifestyle medicine. The future of our country for disease prevention, not disease care, is going to be the pillars of lifestyle medicine. What you eat, how you move, what you drink, what you think, and who you trust in. Those are all very important pillars. And so with further ado, Dr. Kahleova's got a whole list of doctorates from lots of different places. Loma Linda, which I know means a lot to some of you because it's one of our universities. So with no further ado, Dr. Hana, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody? Yeah? We have an exciting topic for this morning, and big thanks to Ron in the AV team who put up a new PowerPoint, in a speed of light, and he also put up a PowerPoint for Jay and Anna, who will be sharing their story. If you're wondering if this approach works at all, Anna and Jay are a living example, and they prepared some photos for you a few years back, and then they will also share their journey with you and their results. Many times people come to me and they're like, you know what? When I was in my 20s, I was able to eat anything I wanted without gaining weight. But now, a few decades later, I seem to be gaining weight from just breathing air. And that struggle is real for many people. Anyone can relate to that? Anyone experience something like this? Well, the truth is, excuses do not burn any calories. I wish they did, but they don't. So we better look at the science. Many people just look at, calories in, calories out, but this approach can do only so much for you. Eventually, you will need to step out and look at more evidence and, a little bit more mechanisms. So in this presentation, we will explore the topic of when to eat. Are there any better times of the day when to eat than others? How many meals a day should we eat? Is it good to snack, or is it better to eat larger meals throughout the day? Number 3, should we have any consistent times for our meals? Does it matter? And eventually, what should we eat? What fuel to put in the tank. So let's start with the first topic. When should we eat? Are there any better times of the day to eat our meals? Studies show that when you eat the same meal in the morning and in the evening, you will deposit 50% more fat after the evening meal from the same meal. So it's much better to eat in the morning or earlier in the day if you don't want to increase your fat mass. People who eat breakfast every day are leaner than those who skip breakfast, even though they may end up eating more calories. And in one weight loss study, they took 420 people. For 20 weeks, they were following the same diet, for weight loss. But one group was the so-called early eaters. They started eating their meals early in the morning and then finished earlier in the day, while the late eaters, didn't eat breakfast, started later, and also finished later. Guess what? The weight loss on the same diet was bigger in the early eaters. It's about weight control, but it's also about risk of diabetes. Studies show that people who eat breakfast every day have a 20 to 40% lower risk of developing diabetes. And when you look at eating breakfast and also meal frequency, eating breakfast and eating only 1 to 3 meals a day is the best for the protection against diabetes. While eating no breakfast and snacking throughout the day, that's the worst model, and that's the best predictor of developing diabetes. So if somebody wants to develop diabetes super fast, just don't eat breakfast and eat snacks throughout the day. Anybody can relate to this? How fast the metabolism can deteriorate on this? Well, if somebody already has diabetes, breakfast is the meal that's important for controlling their blood sugar throughout the day. This randomized crossover trial showed that after eating breakfast, the blood sugar is 20% lower throughout the whole day in people with type 2 diabetes, and their insulin secretion is more efficient. So these studies just show that we need to eat breakfast every day. What if you're not hungry for breakfast? What do you do then? Well, my next question is, what did you have for dinner? I bet everything was delicious, but maybe it was just too much food, right? So next time, make dinner the lightest meal of the day. Extra points if you can skip dinner, because then you will be looking forward to your breakfast. And you can also get some workout in the morning, and that will increase your hunger. And we decided to test this in people with type 2 diabetes. We brought in 54 people with type 2 diabetes, and we randomly assigned them to start either with 6 small meals during the day or with 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch. And the diet was the same, and in the beginning of the study, people were like, I don't know if I can do the 2 meals a day. That sounds like I will be starving in the evening. And every participant tried both. So those who started with 6 meals a day, after 12 weeks, they switched over to 2 meals a day for 12 weeks, and the opposite. So each participant tried both. And they were concerned about the 2 meals a day in the beginning of the study. But let me share the results with you. They lost 50% more weight on the 2 meals a day. That's B2. A6 is for 6 meals a day. B2 is for 2 meals a day. They lost more liver fat on 2 meals a day. Their insulin sensitivity improved more on 2 meals a day. Their glycemic control improved about the same, but their fasting blood sugar and their fasting insulin improved more on 2 meals a day. And what was surprising, people also reported feeling less depressed on 2 meals a day. And here's the kicker, they felt less hungry on 2 meals a day. which was completely surprising for most participants because they were expecting to be super hungry on 2 meals a day, and at the end of the study, most of the participants decided to stick with it for life because it was working wonderfully. Instead of needing to prepare 6 meals a day, now they only needed to prepare 2 meals a day. They were also saying that they were saving money on groceries, and it was just working beautifully. During COVID, a lot of people started gaining weight. Anybody can relate to this? Yeah? And one of my patients contacted me, and he was like, I don't know, I'm just gaining weight and I don't know how to stop that. So I told him about the study with 2 meals a day, and he decided to do it. And so here's his chart that he sent me. He started, the weight is in kilograms, 118 kilograms, so to convert it into pounds, you would multiply it by 2, roughly. So it would be like 36 pounds, roughly, at the beginning. And in only 8 weeks, he lost 22 pounds by just eating 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch, without changing what he ate. So it's a really effective approach. And by the way, before the world's oldest man died at 114, Walter Brueggemann also attributed his longevity to eating only 2 meals a day, working as long as he could, and always embracing change. Because this approach aligns our circadian rhythms. When you wake up in the morning and when you're exposed to the sun and when you're active throughout the day and when you eat all your meals earlier in the day and when you give your body the ability to recuperate and get some rest in the evening and overnight, that's the best you can do for your body. But you are probably now wondering, what, 2 meals a day? I heard that it's the best to snack throughout the day, right? And have many snacks throughout the day to keep my weight constant. Well, let's explore this because snacking has been suggested as a strategy for weight loss and also for keeping glycemic control stable in people with diabetes. But studies show the opposite. Studies show that when people eat more than 3 meals a day, this increases their energy intake and also increases the risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes. I don't know about you, but when you eat more frequently, I personally get more hungry and feel like eating more. And it's been shown that in the studies that have been published, it's been shown to be true. When you eat more frequently, you just stimulate your hunger more and your desire to eat, so you end up eating more. And in the health professionals follow-up study, those who ate more than 3 times a day had a 4 to 18% higher risk of developing diabetes compared with those who ate only 3 meals a day. And I personally find this topic fascinating. So I decided to go to one of the blue zones where people live the longest and are the healthiest on earth, to Loma Linda, California. And I analyzed the data from more than 50,000 participants in the Adventist Health Study too. And I looked at how many meals people were eating and how likely they were to gain weight over the 7-year follow-up period. And here are the results. Eating 3 meals a day was the reference group because, most people eat 3 meals a day. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we put 3 meals a day as a reference group. And look at this. People who are snacking, even 1 snack a day, eating 4 meals a day, was associated with weight gain. Those who ate 2 snacks or 3 snacks or more gained more weight. So the more meals per day people were eating, the more weight they gained. And there was a large group of people who ate only 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch. and they were better off in their weight management compared with those who ate 3 meals a day. Now, breakfast was an important meal of the day. Those who ate breakfast, their body mass index, their body weight was lower compared with those who skipped breakfast. The timing of the largest meal was important. Eating breakfast as the largest meal was associated with a lower body mass index, a better weight control compared with eating lunch as the largest meal, and eating dinner as the largest meal was the worst. Which meal is your biggest meal? In our culture, which meal is usually the biggest one? It's usually dinner, right? So we just need to flip it. And we also looked at the length of night fast, having a break between the meals of 18 hours or more was the most beneficial, which brings us back to eating only 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch, roughly 5 to 6 hours apart. Which means if you eat your breakfast, let's say at 7 plus 6, that would be 1 p.m. having lunch, and you would be done eating for the day. For those of you who haven't tried it yet, it may seem, like, wow, from 1 p.m. not eating anymore, it may feel overwhelming. So as a stepping stone, in the first few weeks or days, you can just add an apple in the late afternoon if you feel hungry, and then eventually you get rid of the apple and you eat only 2 meals a day. It's basically the ancient proverb, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. It's nothing new, but the modern science is really confirming this ancient proverb. Now let's move on to topic number 3. Do we need consistent times for our meals? And the studies show that it's really beneficial to have some consistent times for your meals. One Swedish study that included 3,600 adults showed that those who ate meals at consistent times were leaner than those who didn't have consistent times. Those who ate at different times of the day each day had a 37% higher risk of developing metabolic syndrome. That means being overweight, increasing the risk of high cholesterol, high blood sugar, high blood pressure, all of that. Another study looked at eating the timing of breakfast and having consistent time for breakfast, and those who had an irregular breakfast had a 34% higher risk of developing metabolic syndrome. And another study that was a British study in 4,300 adults looked at lunch and snacks, and again, those who didn't have any consistent times for their lunch had a 42% higher risk of developing metabolic syndrome. And those who ate snacks at random times had a 35% higher risk of metabolic syndrome. So all of these studies suggest that we really benefit from having consistent times for our meals. That said, it doesn't have to be to the minute. So let's say if 7 a.m. works for you for breakfast, it can be 6:55 a.m. one day and 7:05, the next day. That's completely fine. It doesn't have to be completely precise. But, having the roughly consistent times for our meals is really beneficial for our metabolism. And now we're moving on to the last topic. What should we eat when we want to boost our metabolism? And sometimes this feels like a jungle. It feels like there are so many voices, which, somebody says, watch your carbs. Another one says, olive oil is good for you. Just, eat a Mediterranean diet. And, there are just so many different opinions. So let's look at some of the comparisons, because, some of the most popular diets are a keto diet for weight loss, a Mediterranean diet, and now those of you who've attended one of my lectures, either on Friday or yesterday, I was telling you that the vegan diet is the best for weight loss. But how do we reconcile like these different approaches? How do they compare against each other? And we do have studies that compare these approaches against each other. So let me share the results with you. Let's start with the comparison between a keto diet, a super low carbohydrate diet, super high in fat, and a vegan diet. That's the opposite, high in carbohydrates, low in fat. Kevin Hall from the NIH brought in people who are overweight, and he locked them in a metabolic ward for a month so that he could measure everything they were eating. He would measure their metabolism, and for 2 weeks they were following a low-carb diet, a keto diet, and for 2 weeks a vegan diet. And he compared both. So the keto diet, 75% fat and only 10% carbohydrate. A vegan diet, 75% carbohydrate and only 10% fat. So which one was better? People were able to eat how much they wanted on each diet. All the meals were being prepared in the hospital, and they were giving them all the food, but people were able to eat how much they wanted. On the vegan diet, without even realizing, people ate almost 700 calories less on the keto diet. So which diet would promote weight loss in the long term? What do you think? The vegan diet, right? While the body weight dropped really fast on the keto diet and slower on the vegan diet, where did the weight loss come from? It turns out that when you look at fat mass, your muscle, that's exactly what people, this is fat mass. This is fat. So when you look at fat, look at keto. No change in fat mass, when they were dropping all the weight, and only a slight change, while on the vegan diet, a nice drop in fat. But now the muscle, that's your fat-free mass. Look at this, sharp drop on the keto diet. So most of the weight loss that came on the keto diet was because people were losing muscle. How many of you would like to lose any muscle? Anybody? No, that's our longevity organ. We need muscle, if we want to preserve the quality of life. If you want to lift your grandchildren, you need muscle. If you want to do some squats, if you want to do some walking when you're older, you will need muscle. So, we should do everything we can to preserve muscle. So clearly the vegan diet was a much better option than the keto diet, because people were losing weight in a healthier way. They were losing mostly the fat and not the muscle. Okay, what about Mediterranean versus vegan? I was sharing the results yesterday in the lecture. So for those of you who have not attended, I will only summarize the results for you. We did a randomized clinical trial where the participants tried both. For 16 weeks, they were doing a Mediterranean diet or a low-fat vegan diet, and then they switched for another 16 weeks to the opposite dietary intervention. And we found that people didn't lose any weight on the Mediterranean diet. I know that this may be disappointing to many people, but for people who need to lose weight, the Mediterranean diet is not the solution. But people are reliably losing weight on the vegan diet, roughly a pound a week. While it may seem kind of slow to some people, you may think, well, if I do such a great change in my diet and I lose only 1 pound a week. Well, think more about long term and think about all the health benefits. The slower weight loss also means that it's more sustainable in the long term. It's health promoting your body is adjusting and your metabolism is getting healthier. All your cells are being renewed, and it's just healthier and more sustainable in the long term. When we talk about weight loss, many people just want to limit the caloric intake. And they're like, okay, if I want to lose weight, I just need to eat less. But it's not really sustainable in the long term. We know that if you just limit how much you eat, sooner or later you will be more hungry and you will end up eating even more than before. So I'd like to suggest that we also focus on how much we burn. And I don't mean only physical activity, but 70% of everything that we burn is for basal metabolic rate, just to keep us alive, keep the brain and the heart going. About 20% is for physical activity. So, boosting your physical activity will promote weight loss. If you build your muscle, those will burn fat more efficiently in the long term. It's a good idea to increase your physical activity. But also 10% is due to the thermic effect of food, which means the release of heat when we eat a meal. So, could we just increase the thermic effect of food? Can we burn more calories after our meals? This is breakfast, lunch, and dinner. After each meal we eat, the energy expenditure goes up, and we feel warm. So that's why it's called the thermic effect of food. It turns out that people who are obese, their thermic effect of food is lower compared with those who are lean, which is the opposite of what they need. They need to burn more calories. So how could we help them? Number one, keeping the fat content of the meals low, limiting the fat intake helps to increase the thermic effect of food by 32%. Also, the quality of fat. Eating the fat from plants, polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats, instead of saturated fat, increases the thermic effect of food. And also, eating whole grain bread instead of white bread, whole foods instead of processed foods, that increases the thermic effect of food as well. And we decided to combine all of these approaches and test whether a vegan diet could help people boost their metabolism and increase the after-meal calorie burn. And so for 16 weeks, we had 244 people who followed either a low-fat vegan diet or stayed on their usual diet for 16 weeks. We measured their metabolism, we measured their fat content in the liver, and on the vegan diet, they lost 14 pounds in 16 weeks, so that's almost a pound a week. Their liver fat content decreased by 34%. Their insulin resistance dropped, which means a lower risk of diabetes. Their thermic effect of food, no change in the control group, but a 14% increase on the vegan diet, which means now on the vegan diet, people were burning more calories after each meal they were eating. So the plant-based diet was able to boost their metabolism. So in summary, the important pillars of the diet that boost your metabolism are eating early in the day, starting your day with breakfast every day, eat 2 to 3 meals a day. If you can do the 2 meals a day, that will be more beneficial for you than the 3 meals a day for weight loss. If for some reason you still feel hungry in the late afternoon, add an apple or a salad, and then eventually you can just skip it and be on 2 meals a day. Having consistent times for the meals is really beneficial for boosting your metabolism, and a plant-based diet is the best diet for boosting your metabolism. And I would like to hand it over to Anna and Jay to share their own story with us. So if somebody is really overweight and has some health problems, and if they start practicing at least some of this, can they see the actual results? Would you like to share your story with us, please?
So I'll give you a little bit of our backstory. The people that you see here today are not the same people that we were 2 years ago. So we've been on a 2-year journey, and I call it our health journey. So my sister does exactly what Dr. Kahleova does. She's a lifestyle medicine physician, specializes in obesity medicine, and has studied reversal of diseases and prevention and all of that. I didn't know this. So part of our story is my dad is a physician. He's an oncologist, he's a general surgeon, and my sister is younger than me. So I have those two juxtapositions. We've been married for 33 years. So my dad obviously is a big part of our life. When we got married, my dad, before we got married, looked at him, looked at me, and said, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you will be a diabetic. He said that to him. And he said, you have it in your genetics, your mom and dad have it, so you will get it. So what you have to do to prevent it is eat lean animal protein, low carbs, no sugar. This is how we started our marriage. Deathly afraid. I knew what it had done to his mother. I saw what it was doing to his father. And I lived absolutely petrified of losing him. But I didn't see myself. And in the process, we tried and tried and tried, and we just repeated. We did every diet that was out there. Keto, Weight Watchers, you name them, we've done it. The only one we didn't do was the Richard Simmons one. But I watched my mother do it. So we would exercise, we would cardio, we would go back in the cycle of dieting. It was constant feeling guilty, feeling horrific because the numbers would not change. We got to a low point in our life, and he will tell you about the statistics because he's my nerd. And so he's got the actual charts to show what it did to our body to improve us. So we lived that life and scared. When we finally got to our low point, I went to my sister, who's a physician. I thought she was a pediatrician. So she had started out her career as a pediatrician, but she has 2 masters, and she had done all of the research that I just talked about. I didn't know this because when you get together for family gatherings, I wasn't quizzing her about her career. I just thought she was a pediatrician. So I go to her in tears and I said, I can't do this anymore. He's going to die of a heart attack. I thought I was doing it for him. He's going to die of a heart attack. I don't want to repeat the life. I watched his mother and his father die horrific. His mother died a horrific diabetic death, and his father, I can't even talk about that story, and I haven't even been able to since he passed, but it's something I wouldn't wish upon anybody. So this is how I went to my sister, and my sister said to me, if you're ready, I can help you. And I was like, what do you mean? You're a pediatrician. And so she told me what she did for a living. And she took me through it. And she said, whole foods, plant-based. And I was like, wait. I'm a cook. I'm a chef. She knew this. How do I shop for this? How do I cook for this? And she knew that I was a cook. I'm a good cook. I'm a home chef. I know how to put recipes together. I don't use books. So she did one thing. She sent me a book, Be a Plant-Based Woman Warrior by Anne and Jane Esselstyn. She sent me that book. That's how she got me. She said, watch the movie Forks Over Knives or What the Health on Netflix. And then she told us about the book Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Dr. Esselstyn. So we dove into that, watched the documentary, looked at each other, and said, we are beginning our new life. I spent the next months and months and months on the phone with her, and we learned I cleaned out my pantry, fridge, and freezer overnight, learned how to shop again, read labels, relearned how to cook with her help, and this is where we are today. 75 pounds lighter for me. He's more than 88 pounds lighter, completely off of medications, and we've reversed every chronic disease. This was something I didn't know, that I was as sick as he. I wasn't on medications, but I had high cholesterol and diabetes, had it for 2 years. My sister said, you should have been on medication those 2 years. Your doctor should have been scolding you. And I kept telling my doctor, I'll be back. It'll be better next 6 months. I'll be back. It'll be better. It never was. So I reversed my high cholesterol and diabetes. But the best part for me was all my menopausal issues went away, because all of them. She had me introduce soy every single day into my life. And 4 weeks later, when we were feeling stellar and his numbers were changing, I slept through the night one night, and I called my sister, and I was like, I don't have hot flashes, and I slept through the night. And she goes, that's the soy. But she didn't tell me that that's what it was going to do. So anyway, I'll pass it on to him.
Oh boy. All right. Maybe next slide. So here's a picture of me. In that picture, I'm 250 plus, and today I'm in the 165 to 170 range, depending on the day, right? So one more. And so this is us, and that picture on the left was what, 2 years ago, 2 years and a few months ago, 2.5 years ago, okay, to where we are today. And yeah, and in that picture, I am not at my all-time heaviest either, me on the left, okay? I had lost some 20, 30 pounds from my all-time peak.
It's just water.
Oh, yeah, and the doctor had said, you know, you're going to have to up your medication. So I had 3 chronic diseases, the top 3. I was a type 2 diabetic, I had high cholesterol, and I had high blood pressure. I was on as many as 5 different medications for that. That can get expensive, right? And next slide. And, you know, so this is a chart. You can see this is an A1C, and if you don't know what an A1C is, it's a 3-month average of your blood glucose level, okay? And anything in the red box is considered type 2 diabetic. You should be on medications. In between the red and the green is called pre-diabetic. Depends on who you talk to. There's a little bit of fuzzy there. But if you're in the green, if you're under 5.7 in that A1C measurement, you're considered normal, okay? And so this chart, she said I'm a nerd. Well, I'm a IT computer guy. I implement computer systems for a living, and I like data, and I like to plan, and I like to be organized, and I have this data going back like more than 10 years, okay? And so every time I would get my blood test results, I would put them in a spreadsheet, and that's where you got this graph from. All right, so you see the 6.7. That was the highest A1C I ever had, but I was on medicine. I was on medicine and I was a 6.7, okay? I was borderline needing insulin, okay? She told you about my mother, you know, horrific diabetic death, you know, just couldn't, she, you know, grew up in the 50s and, you know, packaged food and processed food was all the rage, right? And she cooked, showed her love through food, and she was killing herself through food. And she was killing us too. She didn't know that, of course, right? But that's what was really happening. So the numbers from 6.4 to the left, go back another 10 years, and they're all in that, no, I'm sorry, go back to the, yeah, stay on this slide for a minute. So 6.7 was my all-time high. The 6.4 is the A1C that I took just before, like a few days before we decided to go whole food and plant-based. So that was my baseline, okay? That was my marker. 6.7 scared me to death. I tried really hard, not eating plant-based yet, but tried really hard to get better. I got it down to 6.4, which is still very much in the diabetic range, okay? The number 3 there is 5.9. So that was 3 weeks? 4 weeks after starting a whole food plant-based diet. And she said, you know, we did go cutthroat. We cleaned out our pantry, our fridge, our freezer. Everything that was processed, simple carbohydrates, simple sugars, processed food of any kind, all either got donated or thrown away, okay? And we bought everything all over again and started eating that way. So we went cutthroat because we knew our lives depended on it. And it dropped to 5.9. I hadn't seen a 5 point anything in years, okay? Probably before I started on the medication a decade or more before, okay? And then, you see the little pills up there, I stopped taking the medicine. I talked to my doctor, I talked to her sister.
Wait, was our doctor supportive?
Our doctor was not supportive. She said, you can try it, I don't know how it's gonna work. Her sister said, let's do it and see how your body does, okay? So, 3 months later, after going whole food and plant-based, off the medicine, my A1C went up, but just a tiny bit. That was my body saying, hey, are you gonna do this? Are you gonna stick to it? I don't know how to really work. You know, let's see if you can do it again. 3 months after that, it took a huge jump down, huge improvement to 5.5. Now I'm in the normal range without medicine. The only thing that changed is my diet. Maybe I exercised a little bit more, but not anything crazy.
We actually exercise different.
Yeah, that's true. But we weren't like gym rats. We weren't running marathons. None of that crazy stuff, okay? And you can see in the periods after that, it's just going down and down and down. And now I'm firmly in the low end of the normal range.
Amen.
Without medicine.
Amen.
All right? So, that is proof. And when I saw that first drop from 6.4 to 5.9, I was convinced. I'm a data guy, computer guy. There's so much noise out in social media and, from seemingly reliable sources that it's hard to know what to believe. But when you hear studies like Dr. Kahleova referenced, that's hard data. That's hard facts, okay? And so you got to be careful who you listen to, but that data right there proved it to me. Okay, next slide. So this is total cholesterol. So cholesterol is a big indicator of heart disease. The higher your cholesterol is, the higher likelihood you have for heart disease, which means blockages, which cause heart attacks, bypasses, all those kind of things. Stents in some cases. And so again, same story as with the A1C. Back decades, my cholesterol was above 150 on medicine, as many as 2 different medicines for this one, okay? But it was in that above 150 to 200 range on medicine, okay? But now, and actually I put that little pill in the wrong place. It should be on the other side of the 166, all right? So I got it down to 148 on medicine. I went whole food plant-based. My body did the same thing. It said, are you sure you're gonna stick with this? Are you sure that we're gonna do this? And so after going whole food and plant-based, the numbers went up a little bit. But her sister said, don't worry, let's give it time. Let's let your body heal. You've damaged your body for 54 years, okay? Your body is now trying to figure out how to heal itself. And so it went up a little bit, but look at the next result, 95. Whoops, sorry, stay there. 95. So I almost cut it in half. No medicine, only whole food and plant-based. And then it's even gotten better since then. That's a 50% improvement. And that's total cholesterol, okay? Some of these numbers, Dr. K, you know that, LDL is like the bad cholesterol, right? That number is usually roughly half of what your total is. So my LDL is like in the 40s. And so those are stellar numbers. That means, I am no longer really at risk from my diet of having heart disease, okay? And just as now you can go to the next slide. And this is the last one. 2 weeks ago, the day before I turned 56, I climbed a mountain with my son. That's a 14,000-foot mountain in Colorado called Mount Sneffels. And I was able to climb that with no issues whatsoever. If I had tried that 2 years ago, I would be a statistic. I would have been helicoptered out of there on a stretcher, and I would not have been here today. I would have died, I'm certain of it. But my body is healed. And, we're not standing here to pat ourselves on the back or ask for kudos or any of that. We just want to try to inspire just one person.
Amen.
To do something, to move just a little bit more towards, a way of living that will improve your life. If you want to see your grandkids, if you want to travel when you're older, suitcases are heavy. Getting in an overhead bin or getting it into the trunk of your car is not easy, right? Grandkids, you want to play on the floor, you want to run around with them, you want to walk to church, you want to walk up this little ramp right here. My parents could not have walked up this ramp right here. This tiny little ramp. What's the elevation here? 3 feet? 4 feet from here to the door back there? They would have struggled with that. I just climbed a mountain and had no issues whatsoever.
But were you that athlete before?
Oh, no, not at all. Never really been an athlete. So yeah, when I was a kid, I played kickball and baseball and all the balls, right? But sorry, the crowd is close here. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So definitely not an athlete. And this was mostly walking, a little bit climbing. But at altitude, I was training for this here in Florida. So I was walking on a treadmill, on it, inclining it up, and I was wearing a weighted vest to simulate like a backpack, right? And I was doing the Stairmaster and stuff, but I didn't know how I would perform at altitude. I live at 7 feet above sea level at my house in Cape Coral, right? So simulating altitude is tough, but I went there, and because my body has pretty much healed itself, is it perfect? No. Do I have a ways to go? Yes. I'm still improving. We're still on our journey. Yeah, that's one big thing. She talked about the usage of how your body reacts when it's resting and refueling. Well, when you have more muscle in your body burns more calories. Amen. Right? And so the same amount of calories get used differently. They get used as fuel for your muscles and your brain, and just keeping you alive, beating your heart. And so we started doing, and especially when I was training for this, I was working on leg muscles and chest muscles and back muscles and strengthening my knees and those kind of things, doing some weights. And I think that really made a huge difference and improvement, and it's just kept going. Did that get to your point?
He looks like an athlete or sounds like one saying this, but for me, I feel like more of a normal person. I was never the one that lifted weights or anything. We just did cardio. We thought we were supposed to do cardio. You hear cardio for your heart. We still do. But we do about 30 minutes of cardio. Then we now switch it to weights. And I started with 2-pound weights. I couldn't even do 2-pound weights. It would leave me sweating and exhausted. And then I slowly moved from 2 pounds to 3 pounds to 5 pounds. And now I'm up to 10 pounds. So we have noticed a huge difference in how our body has shaped with doing the weights and his blood glucose. When he does weights, not just the cardio, and not heavy weights. We're not talking go crazy here. We're talking 2 to 3 times a week is what we do. We're trying to aim for more. It makes a huge difference in his glucose numbers. He's still my guinea pig because I cook and I want to make sure that what I'm cooking, he's ingesting correctly. So he takes his blood glucose even though he has normal numbers, and we keep doing the chart. And so whenever I want to test a recipe out, he pricks himself, and he does it every day anyway. But I use that marker. So we know factually that the food gets affected by us lifting even light weights.
And I'll just say, I do, because I was type 2 diabetic, I was taking a finger prick, a blood sample every day, okay? And I still do that. Because I want to know how the prior day's activities affect me. I try to take it when I wake up every morning. So we know we're still scared a little bit, right? We know that if I eat, out at a restaurant, my numbers are going to go up. If I go on a vacation or something and we eat out several times, I know it's going to be up, and it's going to stay up for like a week.
But the carbs are ingrained in your
Right.
brain, so you're scared still.
Right.
Sometimes I cook and I'm scared that I'm doing it wrong.
Right.
Because we're scared still.
So we can see the effects on my morning glucose of what we do, and exercise, and the food, and the amount of oil in it, the amount of sodium in that meal that we had, meals that we had the day before, all affect that. So that's why these studies are so important, is because the blood work doesn't lie. It can't, right? It's the blood work. It's how your body is performing. Yes.
I really appreciate you sharing the story with us. I really liked how you tackled not only diabetes, but also the cholesterol. Maybe some people don't have diabetes and are wondering, how does it affect my health? Well, if you only have an elevated cholesterol and that's your only problem, that's still a major risk for heart disease. If you have a few extra pounds, you know how it feels when you're leaner. It just makes a huge difference just to lose a little bit, of those extra pounds. But somebody may be wondering, Anna, you're a chef, you're a cook, it's easy for you. What about somebody who, doesn't really have the time to cook? What would you tell them? Are there any resources for somebody who doesn't like to cook, don't want to spend any time in the kitchen?
What I always tell everybody, I used to spend every single day in the kitchen. I cooked every single meal from scratch. So even when I was working or we had a child or whatever, I would still cook. Sometimes you bring out the leftovers, but most of the time I was cooking dinner. This has given me the freedom to live and not be in the kitchen all the time, because what I do is I food prep. So I make sure that we always have food prepped in the fridge, and I call it multi-purpose food. So if I go to the grocery, that's my hard day. I go to my grocery, I come home, I do as much food prep as I can so that we have grab-and-go foods. I steam my potatoes, put them in the fridge so that he walks by, opens the fridge, grabs a couple of potatoes, mixes them with some silken tofu dip or whatever. So all that stuff is made. I have dips made, and it's not like I spend hours in the kitchen. It's just 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, prepping and stuffing the fridge. Stuff the fridge with food prep, and then that food prep gets used. So I have a huge container, for example, right now of potatoes in my fridge. Those potatoes can become air-fried potatoes. potatoes. I can slice them up into chips. I can mash them. I can use my whole potatoes that are steamed in there into a baked potato instead of baking it the day that I'm going to eat it. Also, when you cool it and put it in the fridge, your body, I don't know the scientifics of it, but the body handles it better. The glucose handles it better. So you can do with one food 10 different things instead of spending every single meal trying to create at night. So food prep is the key. Going to the grocery store, you can have the frozen, so I can have those same potatoes be fresh in the fridge, raw on the counter, fresh in the fridge, some of them frozen, same thing with the beans. Make large batches of beans, some in the fridge, some in the freezer, and my other key thing is don't flavor stuff until you're ready to eat it. What if I want Mexican today and I want it to be Thai tomorrow? What if I want it to be barbecue? Same beans that I used, I'm going to do Mexican one day, I'm going to do barbecue another, and I'm going to do that way you're not bored either. So we change it up. We don't just eat the same thing. Now, having said that, in the very beginning, we kept it simple. Even though I'm a cook and I love to cook and I can create to not overwhelm ourselves and learn new nutrition and how to feed ourselves, we spent 2 months where we kept it simple. So simple meant repetitive bowls, the whole rice with the veggies with the beans, and repeat and repeat and repeat. And sometimes we had the same, big giant veggie bowl for lunch. And one of the things that I always say that every single one of these talks I learned something, and what we will be going home to do is 2 meals a day. We started with 6 meals a day because we went from being very obese people that ate all the time, not wanting to be hungry. So we ate 6 meals a day, and then as our body started healing and losing weight, we went to about, I would say, 2.5 to 3 meals a day. Because our body asked for it. Because now it's like we get to dinner and it's like, I'm not really hungry. Because we eat so satiating and such a big breakfast and we eat such a good lunch that by the time we get to dinner, it's like, well, we're not really hungry. So now, after today's talk, it will be 2 meals a day and we'll keep them earlier in the day, like Dr. K said. So that's the other thing that has changed for us. But it's something that our body kind of transgressionally taught us without us having heard it from the talk.
Wonderful. And just as a backup, if somebody is like, yeah, but beans take so much time to cook, there are some good helpers in the kitchen, like an Instapot, where you just push a button, you walk away, you take your shower, and you come back and it's done. And as a backup of all backups, you can always buy canned beans and have them in your pantry, for those occasions where you don't even have, the time to cook even in an Instapot. So meal prep is the key. For somebody who is not experienced at all with plant-based eating, I can recommend a 21-day vegan kickstart, which is on our website, pcrm.org. If you just Google 21-day vegan kickstart, it'll give you some ideas, what to eat. There are so many cookbooks. Is there anything else, Kathy, that you would recommend for somebody who's just starting off, who doesn't know what to cook?
There's some handouts for you in the back. And this particular piece of literature from PCRM, if you are new, and most of you here are not real new at this from what I can see, this takes you from step 1 all the way through beginning to incorporate a whole food plant-based diet. And it's just an excellent piece of literature. So I recommend that you get a hold of something like this, get one in the back, read through it, and then start taking a step. Even if it's just a baby step in the right direction, get started. And when you start to experience the results in how you feel, that will be motivation enough to continue.
Excellent. Let's open it up for questions. Anybody wants to ask any questions?
Can I share something else since I have the microphone? I remember many years ago, back when I was visiting at UT Pine, some of you know where that is, I was living with the Thrashes, and they were very strict 2 meals a day, about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and about 1:30 in the afternoon. And I was in their home eating their food, did not have the option to go in the kitchen and get what I wanted when I wanted, plus I wouldn't because they would see me. Okay, so for a couple days, I was doing the 2 meals a day, and I was hungry in the evening. Come about 6 o'clock, I was feeling hungry, but I thought, well, I'm stuck, I gotta do this because this is where I am right now. And the third day, I was invited to go to someone else who lived there who was a friend of mine, and they were having a birthday party or something, and they were going to have popcorn and banana ice cream, very healthy third meal, and I thought, oh, good, now I'm going to get something to eat at the third meal. I wasn't hungry. I remember thinking, I'm not hungry. The first 2 days I was, and by the third meal I really wasn't. So you just have to get started, and you'll be amazed at how your body adjusts. Now, it means you eat a very good breakfast and a good lunch, but our lunches were finished there by 2 o'clock at the latest. And by the third day, I was good. So just wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
Betty,
Kathy.
you had a question.
Well, it's not really a question, but I just would share real quickly. My husband was a twin, and they both were firefighters. They did everything together. I've never known twins to be, they were almost conjoined, and yet they weren't. Don had congestive heart failure. Their dad died at 62. They were all firefighters. His dad was also. His dad died at 62. So Don ended up with congestive heart failure quite young. And so we went the traditional way. We hadn't ever thought about being vegan. As a matter of fact, at that time in high school, I weighed 218 pounds. We moved here, and Don was in the hospital more than he was at home. He was on many medications. He had a pacemaker with a defibrillator, but he still was in the hospital all the time. My friend Heather Parker, she used to work at the Wellness Center, suggested I take one of Kathy's classes at the Wellness Center, Food for Life. I took the class, I came home, and it was the first time I had any kind of hope that Don would live beyond a few years. And I talked him into giving me 3 weeks, because that's how long it takes for your palate to change. He was a hunter, he liked his meat, he was very much against it, but he said, I'll give you 3 weeks. By the 10th day, he said, I'm going to do this. I feel my arthritis is better. Long story short, that was almost, well, that was 12 years ago, 13 years ago. But Don had congestive heart failure almost 25 years. The turnaround was us becoming plant-based. And it became a lifestyle, not a diet. We did the same thing. I threw everything out in the cupboard or gave it away, everything in the freezer. And in the beginning, I'm not a cook. I don't like to cook. And all we did was we had salads coming out of our ears and quinoa. Those were the only things I knew how to do. And by going to classes, I learned more in the chip cookbook. But what I really want to address is Don's brother was healthier than Don before Don started the journey of a plant-based lifestyle. We were fortunate enough to get a doctor that was willing to work with us, and Don went from 9 heart medications a day to 3.
Wow.
He lived to be almost 81, 2 months shy of 81. We tried so hard to get Ron, his brother, to get on board. He would not, no, it's too much work, and a lot of it, I think, was his wife. You have to both be in it. It's very difficult for just one person to do it. My hat is off to anyone that can. We sent Ron books, tapes, we talked to him. And the fact that they were twins that shared almost identical DNA, and Don was so successful. Ron just wouldn't do it. Ron died 5 years before Don did, and he at the time was on 18 medications. And when people asked me what Ron died of, I said, medications. I truly believed he had so many medications, they killed him. Don died this last March. He had congestive heart failure almost 25 years. He had prostate cancer. He did very well. And then a liver cancer just came out of nowhere. He was a firefighter 33 years, and I'm convinced that it was all the chemicals, all the things that he handled and breathed in, that it just, they didn't even know he had it. It was one of those cancers that just, a week before he died, he was driving doing errands for me, and he died within a week. And as much as it was a shock and it was hard, I'm so grateful to God that Don didn't suffer. He lived a life well lived, and Kathy can tell you, Carol can tell you what a wonderful human being he was. And I thank Kathy, because she was the second step in Don's and my journey, and it gave me my Don for so much longer. And it works. You just have to work it. You have to put in the work. But after a while, it's not work. It's just a part of your life. And just this one quick little thing. In the beginning, people acted like Don and I had become Martians. And I'm going, no, all I'm doing is eliminating a few things from the way I eat. I'm still me. It's still me. I'm just getting smaller. I'm not, I haven't grown antennas. I don't speak a different language. But people, it's really weird the way some people react to it. Anyway.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. We appreciate it. Any other comments or questions? Well, it looks like it's time for drawing. Kathy, did you have a question?
Quick question. I was wondering, I read somewhere that the thyroid can affect your osteoporosis. Can you explain simply how that works at all? How the thyroid is interconnected with that?
Absolutely. So the thyroid is deciding how much energy you have. You don't want your thyroid to be overactive, and you don't want it to be underactive. And studies show that vegans have a 50% lower risk of either condition compared with non-vegetarians. So a vegan diet seems to be, protecting your thyroid health as well. It does affect your bones and the turnover. For example, if your thyroid is overactive, that will exhaust your bones, because now it will stimulate, the breakdown of the bones. The healthy bones need to have a real good balance for the renewal of the bone, the breakdown of the old bone and the buildup of the new bone. They have to be well balanced. If your thyroid is overactive, it may speed up the breakdown of the old bone, but that causes imbalance. So this is how the thyroid may affect your bones. But for most people, bone health is more about exercise than it is about diet. I know that you've probably heard you need to eat enough calcium and vitamin D, which is true, but you can get all of it on a vegan diet. Just focus on the leafy greens and the beans. You will get enough calcium. With vitamin D, you have so much sunshine here in Florida, so if you are spending some time outdoors, you will probably not need to worry about it. But it's a good idea as we age to also measure your levels. In the winter time, especially those with a darker skin may have lower levels of vitamin D, so it's a good idea to keep your vitamin D up. But more important than calcium and vitamin D combined is exercise. Just walking, will support your bones, resistance training, building up some muscles, even if you start off with super light weights, like Anna mentioned. It still is really good for your bones. So any exercise you do, especially the ones that are like, a little bit putting some resistance and putting some weight.
Quit being lazy.
That's really excellent for your bones. And we all need that as we age.
Someone asked me, do you have any recommendations as you're losing weight, how to reduce the sagging skin? That's a big one.
That's an excellent question. And you know, it's funny. Sometimes people fear this side effect, and so that makes them hesitant to lose weight. But there are a few people who lost their weight fairly quickly, and there was some sagging skin. But as the time continued, even without surgery, the skin just adjusted. You know, so give it time. Don't worry about it too much. Some people may opt for plastic surgery eventually, but in many cases, you know, the elasticity of the skin will just make it fit again.
Any other questions? I'd just like to say that it's even, you know, as long as I have been studying this and doing it and teaching it, to have the research science backing up what we have been told either through the spirit of prophecy or whatever, we know it, we believe it, it's true. But now to have all this science that is validating all of these things to be so accurate and so correct just increases our motivation and faith in all of it. And I am very grateful because you are the first one I've heard that's had this much science to back up 2 meals a day and all the other principles that you shared with us. So we thank you.
My pleasure.
All right. David, come on up here. This is my son David. He is going to help us with the raffle. And I have some books to raffle off. He's going to pick a card and then try to read your writing and tell us what your name is. Think David. You can do that? Yeah. I know your name's David.
David.
I knew you were David. Pick a card, David. He's also a comedian.
David.
Get out of here.
Abigail Smart.
Abigail Smart. Abigail, are you here? There she is. You're going to, okay, come on up. This is a Plan A diet written by a colleague of mine that I met, and she became very active in the health revolution, has her own podcast now, and even wrote her own book. Abigail, congratulations. Got another one, David?
I got to look. I don't have my glasses either.
Okay.
I'm going to pick another one.
Kathy McGuire. Come on up, Kathy. Enjoy. It's a good read. Another one?
Tim McDonald.
Oh, we can't do that one because that's her partner. Give me another one. They got to share that way. You didn't win, didn't you?
I just did that one. There's another one.
That's the same one.
Wow, he's in there a lot.
We had two. Okay.
You have the
Ebony Finnerty. Ah.
Oh, that's good.
Is your name Ebony? I thought it was Esther. You're both. How many tickets did you put in? No, I'm just kidding you. Okay. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any final comments or questions? We learn from one another, folks, and we learn by sharing with one another. And stay engaged because the research is expanding all the time. And I have watched this over the last 50 years. There is a revolution going on, and we are at a tipping point in terms of people understanding the value of the message that we have. So I encourage you to share it whenever you can. Our first meeting back here in this venue will be on September 9th. It's a Thursday at 6:30. And you all, of course, are invited. It is a community, it used to be called Club Chip, but since we're not using the chip logo anymore, it's a community plant-based potluck, and everyone is welcome. Thank you for coming. On your way out, make sure you pick up these handouts that are posted in the back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
September 9th. That meeting is September 11th, not the 9th.